Anyway, so we go to the Biden, what I'm calling the Joe Biden bribery, money laundering scandal allegations that are out there. This all got started thanks to the Government Accountability Institute and Peter Schweizer and Secret Empires and a book that he launched in 2018 on this show. It's unbelievable. It's taken so long to actually get to the bottom of all of this. And now I will say that there is a cancer that is a clear and present danger to the presidency of Joe Biden. And that is, this has gone off the rails for them in ways I'm sure they never anticipated. This whole bragging moment of, I told them you're not getting $1 billion. You're not getting $1 billion. They're not going to get it unless you fire a prosecutor. Okay, well, that was the quid and the pro and the quo that I've been telling you about. And their entire defense now has just evaporated and fallen apart. And we now know from John Solomon, justthenews.com, that, in fact, Joe Biden was even going against the Obama administration's stated policy that they had approved this this $1 billion loan guarantee that Joe was there to deliver. But he goes before the Council of Foreign Relations, bragging he unilaterally withheld the $1 billion, and son of a b, they fired him. And this is the real quid pro quo. Peter Schweizer said on his podcast recently, drill down is what they call it. But anyway, that this is a direct bribe, quote. This is a quid pro quo, quote. The bottom line is it doesn't matter if you demonstrate a single penny went to Joe Biden because bribery can mean paying off your family. In other words, family enrichment. That happened as a result of his official actions. That was exactly what was written in the 1023 form that the DOJ and the FBI did not want to give to Congress. And we only know about it thanks to the courage of people like Ron Johnson and Charles Grassley making it public, and James Comer. Anyway, if a family gets paid, the politician performs a service for it. What would you call it? Anyway, now Seamus Bruner is going to join us in a second, found even more evidence on Hunter's laptop. We're going to talk to him about that now as we welcome in Eric Eggers. He's the host of the Drill Down podcast with Peter Schweizer, Vice President, Government Accountability Institute. Seamus Bruner, Director of Research for that same organization. Welcome both of you back to the program. Seamus, my understanding is you have spent more time on Hunter's laptop in all likelihood than Hunter has spent. Is that true?
Yeah, that's right, Sean. It's great to be with you.
My lawyers would not let me get an offered copy of that laptop. And the understanding at the time was they thought that there were, well, let's just say, pornographic images of young people, and just having it in my possession, if it was there, I don't know if it is or not, you would know, could it constitute a crime in and of itself?
Yeah, we had lawyers look at this. Now, there was a lot made about those images back around the election. Thankfully, I have not seen anything like that on there. I stuck to the emails and the text messages and the documents. And the documents and the emails are damning enough. I mean, we don't need to get into any photos of crack cocaine and all of that, but that is there. The documents and the emails show absolutely Joe Biden is involved, fully involved. We've always known this. It's never been about Hunter. And that there was a quid pro quo in Ukraine, something that is absolutely an impeachable offense. The Constitution demands that bribery, if that occurred, it demands impeachment.
All right, let's talk about now. We do, Peter talked about, well, Joe Biden didn't personally have to be enriched. However, in emails to the money guy within the Rosemont Seneca company is a guy by the name of Sherwin. And there are specific emails that lay out specific costs for repairing Joe's home and what accounts they're going to be paid out of. Hunter himself implicates his father. Pops takes half his income, 10% for the big guy. It looks like Joe took these actions. It benefited, according to James Comer, 9 family members and Joe himself.
Yeah, Sean, that's exactly right. I mean, Joe Biden's entire family has been taking money, selling access to, Devin Archer calls it the, quote, Biden brand. And it wasn't just the illusion of access. It was full-blown access. And in the case of Ukraine, Joe Biden took a official policy. He went and leveraged our taxpayer money, the $1 billion, unless you fire this prosecutor. Now, there's been this pushback from the left saying that the prosecutor deserved to be fired. Everybody was in agreement, but you're right to cite the Solomon story. There was not consensus. There were plenty of people at the State Department who thought Shokin was doing a good job. And then if you follow that quote from Joe Biden at the Council on Foreign Relations, and then they put in place someone who is solid, I mean, what does he mean by solid? The replacement for Shokin, this guy Yuri Lutsenko, was anything but solid, but he made the Burisma investigation go away. So, I mean, this is as corrupt as can be.
Let's talk about what other emails you saw that implicates the Bidens.
Yeah, so this, I mean, the news of last week and into this week where James Comer has released this email coming from one of Joe Biden's vice presidential staffers where he copies Hunter and only Hunter on this email about Joe's upcoming call with Ukrainian President Poroshenko. Why is Hunter being copied? Everybody's talking about the pseudonym that Joe's using, but the really important detail about this email and the call with Poroshenko is that this is the payoff. This is the time of the payoff for the $1 billion. Ukraine fires the prosecutor after Joe Biden demands it in March of 2016. And this email that Comer has highlighted is now May of 2016. Just 1 week after this email, Ukraine gets the $1 billion, the $1 billion for firing the prosecutor. And so the fact that Hunter Biden was looped in on this would allow Hunter Biden to go and call his paymasters at Burisma and say, you know, case closed, we got it done, let's move on to a next deal. We see on the laptop at this very same time frame, May 2016, Hunter is talking about new deals with Burisma, new ways to get paid. Joe's now delivered. It looks like Hunter was worth the $1 million a year they were paying him.
All right. So now the question is, does that violate the law? Do you know if Hunter had a security clearance? I can't imagine somebody addicted to drugs and violating, likely violating gun laws and everything else would have a security clearance. Would that be acceptable to share that information with Hunter?
I would think not, especially because sharing U.S. government, I mean, all of this is paid for by U.S. taxpayers. Biden's staff is paid for, his emails and, his schedule, all of that is paid for by taxpayers. To provide this taxpayer-funded information to a private citizen who is then going to go leverage that to cash in and make $1 million a year so that he can tell his corrupt Ukrainian oligarch benefactors, this is what the U.S. government is doing. You've got a secret sneak peek inside of the vice president's office. I mean, I don't know that we've ever seen anything like this.
Eric Eggers, let's get your take on all of this.
No, I think Seamus is exactly correct. We haven't ever seen anything like this. And we would probably not see anything like it again if the Bidens hadn't been so good at it and gotten away with it for so long. I mean, remember this, Sean. Joe Biden gets appointed to be the Obama administration's point person on Ukraine policy. 2 months later is when Hunter Biden gets hired by Burisma in the first place. So, the good news is that, the evidence is there in plain sight if anybody's willing to look at it. The bad news is the Bidens are good at this. Seamus uncovered in an email that November of 2015, that Joe Biden is, point person on Ukraine policy. Hunter Biden's being paid by Burisma, and the Burisma executives at some point say, hey, wait a minute, you're actually not doing that much. What are we paying you all this money for? 1 month later is when Joe Biden then starts to put the pressure on to get the thing done they asked for, to get this prosecutor removed. So the bad news is the Bidens are very effective because from November, when Burisma tells Hunter, hey, what are we paying you for? Within 5 months, it's done. So they're wildly effective. The evidence is in plain sight, and I'm glad the House Oversight Committee is doing the work to help bring this thing to the public. And I expect, you mentioned the Republican debate tonight, I expect we'll probably hear more about Hunter Biden tonight than we've heard on other mainstream news outlets for the last 5 years.
I'm not really sure we will necessarily. I honestly am not sure that that's going to be the case. If ever there was a case to be made, I think this is the one on these very serious and significant charges. But now we have another problem, and that is the guy that investigated Hunter for 4 years, Eric, David Weiss. He didn't plan on bringing any charges against Hunter. He's the one that let the statute of limitations run out on many tax crimes and He's the guy that ignored the FARA, potential FARA violations. He's the guy that then came in with the sweetheart deal only because the IRS whistleblowers kind of blew his cover. And even the judge in this case, had the judge not looked deep into the plea agreement, especially the gun diversion provision of this agreement, where they buried full immunity for Hunter in there. And then the judge asking the prosecutor, have you ever seen a deal like this before? The answer was no. And, you know, why would that judge sign off on a deal like that? The judge did not, thankfully. Well, now Hunter is going to probably face real charges, but it's not, to me, so much a Hunter Biden issue. Hunter gets nothing but for Daddy and Daddy's actions here. Isn't that correct, Eric?
Well, that's absolutely right. And that's why that's always been the story, right? And that's why the pictures on Hunter's laptop, the pornography, the drugs that your lawyers probably smartly kept you out of legal ramifications for, that's not what matters. People will focus on that. But the real story is that Joe Biden worked hand in hand with his son to affect official U.S. policy, affect aid towards the country that was facing a Russian invasion, and essentially threatened against Obama administration policy to withhold that money unless they did the favor that would benefit his son's business. And as we talked about in the podcast, most recent episode, that money went to his family. Now, it's not unusual for the Bidens to make money, but I think it's fair to say that they were so successful at being paid by Burisma because of Joe Biden's ability to shape U.S. policy. Hunter's making over $1 million a year doing that. But I think that probably then emboldened them to grow the business and try other things, which is, as you mentioned, includes up to $31 million to other Bidens from China, for example, that money that's linked to Chinese espionage rings. So, I mean, this is one of, unfortunately, not a small number of examples of the Bidens cashing in because of Joe Biden's ability to at least appear to deliver goods. When it came to Burisma, he actually did deliver.
Well, he also was having dinner with oligarchs and, you know, some of our top geopolitical foes. The former First Lady of Moscow, Devon Archer, even confirmed $3.5 million in one deal, $120 million invested in a real estate deal. And, you know, none of these people had any experience that we can tell in any of these fields or any of these endeavors. What did they do for the money? What did the grandkids do for the money? Apparently they got paid, according to James Comer. You have any idea what they did to earn that money? What services they performed, Seamus? Because I can't see any, except for getting Joe involved.
Yeah, Sean, there's a reason why it is some of the sketchiest, most corrupt oligarchs in the world that are paying the Bidens. This is a business model that you saw with the Clintons. They went to Kazakhstan, and Bill Clinton takes these photo ops with the dictator for life of Kazakhstan. You see the Clintons in Russia. There's a reason that countries like this and oligarchs like this pay the son and the family of, let's say, Joe Biden. It's because Joe Biden will then go and lend the credibility, lend the reputation of the U.S. government, and he rehabilitates these oligarchs' reputations. I mean, first it starts with Hunter, and he, takes some photo ops with this Zlochevsky, head of Burisma, and then that guy can go and show, various prosecutors who are looking into him, no, look, the son of the vice president trusts me, I'm a good guy. And then when you get Joe Biden coming in and putting pressure on the prosecutors to make the case against these oligarchs go away, and it's the same with China, it's the same with Russia. The reason the Russian oligarch, Baturina, gave millions of dollars, $3.5 million is the floor, $200 million seems to be the ceiling, to Biden-linked businesses, is because her money might get sanctioned. Well, guess what? Once you give the money to the Bidens, it doesn't get sanctioned. So it's a very corrupt business model that Joe Biden, the Clintons have engaged in, and there needs to be rules against all family members of public officials taking money from foreign governments and oligarchs.
Oh, I think we have those rules. They're called laws. And I think we have a legitimate bribery, money laundering scandal allegation, and yet we have a jokester, a friend of Beau Biden's with an office full of Biden sycophants that tried to wash it all and sweep it all under the rug. Thankfully, that didn't happen. Great work as always. We appreciate it. Eric Eggers, Seamus Bruner, thank you both.